I didn't play the intro, but you know what? Screw it. We can just run with it. Hey, boys, what's up? Good to see you guys for another episode of the Blind Pig Podcast, courtesy of BGObsession.com. As always, come by, hook us up, find us on socials, on all audio platforms, youtube.com, and of course at bgobsession.com. We have all kinds of contests. I think you got a couple days left to do your survivor pool, your crystal ball selection, your pick'em, all kinds of free contests. So come by, join up, have some fun. So, fellas, it's Monday. We have made it. It's the regular season. We are here. Sip, as in the past, has joined us. Skins in Paradise. So we welcome him back again. You weren't on last week. I'm curious, what did you come out of the preseason feeling like? Roster cut down. Any surprises? Anybody that jumped off the page at you like you were shocked? Or is it par for the course?
Yeah, as far as cut downs go specifically, and no big shockers. I guess maybe they would have had one more receiver, instead of 5 receivers, 6 receivers, but there was nobody that really jumped out. So I get it, and who knows? They could sign a receiver this week, but uneventful to me, the cut downs.
When we talked, I think the biggest we talked about a couple. The biggest surprise was probably Cleveland Farrell, the cut, just because you didn't really expect with the question marks along the D line. You just kind of figured a guy you brought back would be there. And I know mine was Yankoff on the offense. I was kind of surprised we were in 4 tight ends. So, anyways, enough of that preseason mumbo jumbo. The Giants, boys. What are we thinking about the Giants? I think this was going to be a sneaky, tough team. They're not going to be an easy out, in my personal opinion. But I'm curious, how are you guys feeling going into week 1? Because we are now 6 days away from kicking this thing off. What do you got, brother?
Wait, who'd you just yell at?
Tony.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I couldn't understand either.
I couldn't either. You're a little crackly.
Yeah, I'm just glad to finally have football back, and I agree with the NFC East. No matter your record or if one team is supposed to be good or bad on paper, generally all the games are tough. With the Giants, I'm looking forward to seeing how our upgraded offensive line can handle their defensive line, which is already good before they added Abdul Carter. But Connor Lee's played him before, and it'll be interesting to see how Tunsil handles that. And like a lot of teams in the NFL, it'll just be fun to see our mainline players play because as fans we haven't seen them play too much in the offseason. So it'll be good to see what Kingsbury does in his next step and the offense with Jaden and some of his new toys.
What do you think, Sip? How are you feeling about the Giants?
I feel a little better seeing that Andrew Thomas might not play. Their offensive line, I don't think it's as bad as some people think it is, but it turns bad usually when he is out. It's like he's by far their best offensive lineman, and the domino effect of losing him feels good. Before I saw that, I was somewhat pessimistic about this game. Even though the Giants give Washington a hard time all the time, they don't really give the other teams in the division a hard time. I mean, Dallas dominates them. The Eagles dominate them. So I'm not big on the NFC East. All these games are tough. I mean, I think that's a Washington, from our perspective, the Giants can give us a hard time no matter what season, what context. And on occasion, we could upset the Cowboys and the Eagles. But by and large, the Giants have been dominated, by the Eagles in Dallas. But for whatever reason, they give Washington a hard time. I like Dan Quinn a lot. I like a lot of what he does, and I think he's a great motivator, great coach. I'm very happy with him, but I'm a little bit worried about his approach to the preseason. He's 2-5 in his career in game one. I think doing the math, he's like 2-17. I think since 2017 in the preseason, and but anyway, I think he might take it a little bit too lightly for my taste. And conversely, the Giants took the opposite approach this preseason. They kind of did it more of the Dan Quinn style in recent years, and they made a whole big to do about how this time we're gonna go hard in the preseason. And the Giants looked super sharp in the preseason. This team did not. Now, granted, their starters didn't play, but I don't know. It doesn't feel great to me. In terms of this matchup, I felt differently months ago, but I think Washington can win. But it would not shock me at all if the Giants pull off an upset.
Bob, what are you feeling, buddy?
Normally, the Giants give me butterflies. They just, every team in every sport in the world just seems to have that bugaboo team, right? That one team that seems to have their number. And for years, it's felt like no matter how bad the New York Giants were and how good we felt like our guys were, the Giants had our number. And some days I think we all felt like the referees probably helped them a little bit. I'm thinking of the infamous end zone catch that wasn't a catch, was actually interference, actually not a catch because there was interference, and the offsides penalty, and there just always seems to be some kind of shit with New York. And so I expect some shit with New York on Sunday. However, I feel pretty good this week. And the reason I feel pretty good this week is because I don't think Russell Wilson is all that in a bag of chips anymore. And I don't think that offensive line can give him the time that he needs now. He's not the same player off schedule as Russell Wilson 5-6 years ago. And I just, the thing that has driven us nuts for the last 4 years has been Daniel Jones' ability to run the football when plays break down and shit's off schedule. He's got one of the longest runs for a quarterback against Washington in history, right? 50, 60, 70 yards a couple of years ago? I mean, it was almost RG3 like what he did to us a couple of years ago. And he just seems to have those games. Well, he's now suiting up in Indianapolis. Yeah, he's in Indianapolis, isn't he? And Russell's never seemed to have anything special against us. And I don't think that's going to change because he's wearing blue and now. I really don't. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Thibodeau's recovered from that major injury he had during the season last year, whether he's still quite the same player. I mean, granted, he's very young, and I expect him to bounce completely back. But, anybody that's watched Washington for any amount of time knows that when guys come back from a major injury like that, they don't look like themselves the very first game. Will he look like himself the very first game? And if he doesn't, is there anybody else on that defensive line that can do the things that he has done to us the last 2 years, right? The guy's kind of turned a little bit into I see him in my nightmares now. He and Saquon Barkley. If there are two guys in our division that I see, and I see Thibodeau more than I do Parsons, if you want to know the truth. So I mean, he concerns me, but is he healthy? I don't know. I'm not saying this is going to be a cakewalk, but Jaden Daniels isn't a rookie, kids. We lost our first game last year. We had a rookie quarterback under center. 2 games later, he didn't look like a rookie anymore, and we weren't losing football games anymore. And I think if he played week 1 the way he played week 3 last year, we beat Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay. I'm not saying that we're going to blow New York out of the park, but I expect Washington to win this football game. We are the better football team.
Yeah, I actually, I'm Bob. I think I'm with you. And you said that for years, it seems like every team every professional team has their bugaboo. For years, the Giants have been ours. Well, guess what? We've been pretty bad for a while, right? Like, so
Yeah.
There's been a lot of teams that seem to have had our number. I can remember quite a few Philly games that we got our doors blown off. Quite a few Dallas games that we got our doors blown off also. So I look at this team a little differently, but I will say this is coming that I do think fans need to take a second to step back a little bit, and I think we need to look at the benchmarks of where we were and how we got to 12 wins last year and set our expectations more realistically because of a lot of different things. We played some bad quarterbacks last year. We played a weaker schedule last year. A lot of there. I don't. I think we're going towards that level of play where we can look at our team and we can realistically expect to win certain games. But I don't think we need to go into it saying that we're an NFC championship team and we can beat all but 4 teams in the league. There's going to be some dogfights, and the Giants are going to be one of them. I think their defensive line has the ability to take over games, and not just take them over, but completely control that. And it's going to have to come down to some breaks going one way or another offensively that I think is going to be a determining factor in a lot of Giants games. I won't say Russell Wilson scares me, but I think he's adequate. I don't think he's. I guess if you can't win 10 games under Mike Tomlin, that says something about you, because it seems like everybody can win 10 games under Mike Tomlin. So take that for what it's worth. But I do believe that they've got some explosiveness on offense also, and they can. If the Giants have done something in the past, it's find a way to make 3 plays that break your back, right? Like they could beat us 21-17, and it comes on 3 touchdowns that are 80 yards, and that's the entire offense. So I'm nervous on some level. I do think we're the better football team. I do think that should be more effective. I wonder if Terry McLaurin gets off to a slow start because he has not had any game action. I believe he's a full go of practice, but he's 2 weeks of practice where everybody else is 2 months. So there's some concerns there, but I do think we're the better team. We should win the football game. If you were to bet on it, I think you should bet on us to win. In fact, I think a lot of people are taking us in their survivor pool, not just in our survivor pool, but a lot of survivor pools.
Yes.
And Vegas generally has an idea what's going to happen, and we're the favorite there. So, but they can be scrappy, but it's going to be a good test. I think that this team can show. Look, if we're going to be a real team this year, this is a game you got to win. You got to win comfortably. You got to win handily. And I say that now, but at the end of the day, as long as we have 1 more point than them, I'll be happy.
Just throwing it out there, we beat them twice last year by a combined total of 7 points.
Yeah. And let's be honest, that's a neighbor's drop away from losing the first game.
Well, and the first game is the infamous 7 field goals? We didn't find the end zone.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We won 21. We won 21-18 with 7 field goals.
They didn't have their kicker. Remember in that one? That was
that's right.
Graham Gano got hurt on the opening kickoff, right?
Oh, yep. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
good call outs.
One other little effect here is that let's not forget that Santana Moss will be inducted into the Ring of Fame before the game on Sunday, which is going to be cool.
Very deserving fellow.
A little bit of extra motivation. The Cowboy Killer.
Yeah.
Some of the greatest memories I've got regarding some recent history involved that man. So, Sip, I'm curious, what is your idea of the key to the game? What's going to be the turning point? Like, what stands out to you is what's going to
Yeah,
make the difference?
I'll play.
Washington wins if, Washington loses if.
Yeah, I guess what worries me, and I'll get into what I would do to stop it, but I was at actually, ironically, live the last time this team faced Russell Wilson 2 years ago, and then last season, 2 years ago against Denver. Washington ended up winning that game, but Russell Wilson did a Jaden Daniels style Hail Mary there right at the end, and got a touchdown, and they went for a 2-pointer, and fortunately they missed it, but that would have been one hell of a victory. And I was at the game where he helped beat Washington with that big throw. It wasn't, a deep. Well, it was a intermediate pass to Pickens. At the end, made a clutch throw, and they won that one. Russell's not what he used to be, but he's still somewhat. He has somewhat of a clutch gene, and he could throw it deep. And Neighbors and Hyatt and Slayton can catch it, catch deep balls. So people were saying, around the team, that including Quinn, that Quan Martin is having a great camp, and I think he's going to emerge as this superstar. If so, I hope it happens, this Sunday, because if I'm the Giants, what I would do is I would, do what they did in that second game where they kept, for that first drive. You guys remember they had Tracy? They kept giving him the ball, and he freaking looked like Walter Payton, and then they kind of abandoned that, and we were fine. But I would make Washington's linebackers / safeties come in, try to stop Tracy, and then just try to beat him deep. So I think for Washington, you corner / safety play, because I think the Giants come in this with they got nothing to lose. They had a great preseason. They smoked all the teams. The national media is in love with them right now. Like, this is that they're finally, coming back. According to some that covered that he was not playing in this game. Some people think he's the real deal. Micah Parsons is talking up Abdul Carter as being somebody who's even than him. I mean, you mentioned Thibodeau, but Thibodeau's probably, arguably, their fourth best pass rusher. Or defensive lineman. Ryan Burns, who in my opinion is better than Thibodeau, and then Carter supposedly is had a big preseason. People think he's going to be a monster. The fact that Thibodeau, in my opinion, is their number 4 D lineman just shows you how deep and how good that D line is. So circling back to that, I do think that we need to kind of have a lot of eye-candy in the backfield to slow down that pass rush. Use Depot and Krosky Merritt / Rodriguez, run the ball, end arounds, just make it where we're doing the opposite of an Eric Bieniemy style offense, where we're using our running game and using the backfield to basically pause the giant pass rushers where they're just not teeing off at our offensive line the whole game. So to me, it's a combination of that: is getting the run game going, getting Depot, getting Jalen Lane, using the backfield to kind of freeze the pass rush, and then good safety play to stop the Giants. Because in my nightmare scenarios, I could see them going for a deep ball really early, just trying to demoralize Washington, get the crowd out of the game. Russell still prides himself on throwing a great deep ball. I could see them going to Neighbors or Slayton or somebody really early in the game to try to set the tone. And in my opinion, we need to shut that down if so.
Hard to argue any of that, Bob. Where do you land on that that conversation? Washington wins if, Washington loses if. What's the keys?
I think Sip's absolutely right. I think they're going to go. I think they're going to go deep early. I think they're going to test I think they're going to test both Amos and Lattimore early, right? Lattimore didn't look like Lattimore at the end of last year, and until he proves that he's back, teams are going to go after him. Amos is a rookie. We all know NFL is tough on rookie cornerbacks, and they're gonna go test him too. And Malik Neighbors did not look like a rookie last year for damn sure. So he makes sense to be the guy that they go try and get something with. Darius Slayton hurt us, more than once last year too. So I think that whole New York wide receivers versus our rebuilt cornerback unit, secondary in general, is going to be a definite matchup to watch. I think Andrew Wiley and whoever lines up on the left end over there for New York is going to be something to watch too. Wiley's better than I think a lot of us fans realize he is. I mean, you go back and look at his numbers, and he didn't give up nearly as much as we feel like he gave up. But it's going to look worse this year than it did last year because nobody beats Laramie Tunsil. So the left side's pretty solid. I'm not worried about guys coming off the left. They got to beat Tunsil, and that is historically very difficult to do. It's going to be very interesting to see how Coleman does with the switch inside to guard next to Tunsil. There may be some inside pressure that we're not used to seeing because Cosme's out, arguably the best offensive lineman we had last year. So Allegretti switching sides. There's some things to take a long, hard look at, and that defense may be able to get after us in some ways that we're not necessarily expecting. But yeah, I think the key to the game is going to be their wide receivers on our secondary. I think Sip hit that pretty much right on the head. Russell's still not afraid to go deep, and while he doesn't play off schedule the way he used to play off schedule, that arm is still very, very lively and capable of throwing the ball 60 yards in the air. So. And they'll take a couple of shots, and they're going to come out and test the run defense. They made hay against everybody. Made hay against us running the football last year.
Okay.
So the book from last year is run the football, and until we prove that you can't run the football against us, people are going to do it.
Tony, what are you feeling, brother?
With that, yeah, I agree. Of course, Neighbors is the one guy who scares you the most on their offense. But hopefully our upgraded corner room and safeties can help. So it's not St. Juice, that Russell Wilson's burning. So hopefully we've upgraded there. And then I think like Kinlaw and Newton and Payne or however else they scheme things up to get pressure up the middle can help too, because you got Shorty. Russell Wilson back there. So hopefully we can get some more pressure on him. And likewise, then on offense, yeah, like everyone's alluded to, their Giants line is great. So we'll have to scheme up ways to offset that. And hopefully with Tunsil and some of our upgrades there, it won't be as obvious as other years how great the Giants defensive line is. So, and then I'll be interested to see how the running back carries and playing time shakes out on Sunday. How much is Eckler going to play? How much are the running backs going to be involved in the passing game and pass blocking and everything there too? So that'll be interesting too.
Yeah, I'll echo everything you guys are saying, but I think the true key to the game is not necessarily going to be. I think it's going to be our wide receivers versus our weapons versus their defensive backs. I think there's going to be a lot of paralleling the line of scrimmage. There's going to be a lot of screens. I think we're going to see some Debo. I think we're going to see a lot of maybe a little Jalen Lane mixed in there, some Eckler. And I think that's where we're going to be able to create some opportunities to mitigate that pass rush. Because how many times did we watch who we thought to be premium pass rushers just end up 8 yards behind the play because they were too good, right? And it just creates a gaping hole.
Yeah.
So I wonder, looking at their corners, they have Deonte Banks, who has a hit, reputation, but he hasn't exactly been elite. And then on the other side, they're looking at Paulson Adebo is listed as their starting corner. So I'm wondering how they're going to match up there. And then if you look at their linebackers, their interior guys, Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden. So how can we utilize Ertz? How can we utilize Eckler? How can we utilize quick passes and get the ball out where the edge rushers are basically useless at that point because the ball's out faster than they can make a play. And can we create that? So I guess the real question is in my mind, can we get to that 28-30 number? Because I don't think the Giants can. And that's where it's going to boil down to. Not offensively. Even with Russell Wilson, even Malik Neighbors ain't scoring 5 touchdowns by himself, knock on wood. Now I say that, he's going to put up a record day, but can we get to that 28-30 number? And if we can get up around that number, can the Giants keep up? Because if we're flirting with that, then they're pressing and they're trying to push and they're trying to do things, and I think it's an act of desperation. I think the worst thing we can do is have a slobber knocker, have an 18-14 game and let them linger. We need to get out. We need to score points. We need to get them moving sideline to sideline. We need to wear them big boys out. We need to make Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns and Kayvon and Thibodeau and get them fat boys moving sideline to sideline and get them burnt up. Because then it'll start to, we'll reap the benefits midway through the second quarter and into the third. So,
I think Kingsbury always has to
have you
go
been
up
looking
tempo.
at Thibodeau recently? He's not a fat boy.
Nah. I was more referring to those interior guys, but yeah, I know you're
Lawrence
not wrong.
Lawrence is. I get where you're going.
What were you saying, Tony?
I was going to say, we also, at least based on last year, we go up tempo at certain points when the other team's not even think about it sometimes too. That also helps create favorable matchups.
Keep them on the field, keep them moving. Don't let them sub. Keep that the gas down, and just make sure that you can set up the situation you want. So we don't really have a reaction versus last week, so this could be a little bit of a shorter podcast. So I guess we can transition. Do we want to do predictions?
You mean
Bob?
the game
What's your
for
prediction
the season?
for the game? Game.
For the game?
Yeah. What's your prediction, Bob? I'm going to make a note.
31-24 Washington.
31-24. I like it. What about you, Tony? What's your prediction, brother?
I'm going 27-17 Washington.
31. Okay. What about you, brother Sip? What you got?
Assuming Thomas plays, because Thomas doesn't play, I waffle. But if he plays, I'd say, and I hope I'm wrong, Giants 27, Washington 24.
Oh, with the Giants upset. Thank you, because if we win, then you're responsible for bucking that trend.
Yeah.
Wow.
27. All right. Then all right. Well, then I need a further
Explain.
analysis of what is this board like after that game, if that's what actually happens.
I hope I'm totally wrong, but this is kind of how I think the season's going to go. Is purely guessing. I think they start 0-2, but I think that actually gives them an edge going forward. They laid an egg against Tampa. I was at that game. It's not that they just played poorly, but I was above the sideline. I remember commenting at the time to people, it's like they just seem totally flat. Bram Weinstein's been to camp, thinks it's a low energy camp compared to the past. It feels to me that they need to get their asses kicked a little bit to kind of find their edge again from last season. I hope I'm wrong, but I think they start 0-2, and then I think they take off. It gives them the edge they need. Use a movie metaphor. It's like Rocky 3. He needs like Mr. T to kind of, beat him up in order to find his edge and the eye of the tiger again. And then they take off. So I think they'll have a good season, but I just have a bad feeling about how the season is set up to start between Terry and Noah not playing this, in camp and having the injuries and the contract situation. I don't think they're going to play the full game. I'm assuming not, because to avoid soft tissue injury. So who's coming in on outside receiver? Luke McCaffrey or somebody they signed this week potentially? I think the O-line is set up to be really good this year, but I think it might take a few weeks to find their chemistry, and they're playing against a pretty good D-line. The Giants seem energized. They're kicking ass in preseason. They're playing their starters. They are sort of deemed as the upstart team of the NFC East from the national media for this year. So it's like the maybe in theory upstart team from the NFC East from this year playing the team from last year. So I don't know. Like I think the Giants are going to come in this more energized, more jazzed, more seasoned in the preseason, and it just doesn't feel that good. And then in a short week going to Green Bay, I don't know. It doesn't feel good. The season feels good, but it just doesn't feel like a strong start. And I hope you guys laugh at this in the end, and I'm dead wrong, but that's my feeling right now.
Hey, you can only go by what you feel, brother. So don't feel bad about it. I'm gonna say that I actually echo a lot of what you say, but I think we find a way to pull it out. I don't think it's going to be as comfortable as we want it to be, and I think people are going to be a little upset about that and concerned. But I think, to your point, we didn't play a lot of the starters in the preseason. I mean, we sat between the first game and the third game. I think we sat 59 players. Right? Is my math is correct? I think 30 in the first and 29 in the third. So there's going to be some rust, especially with the guys like Terry. I don't think it's going to be as easy as we want it to be. And I think there's going to be moments of struggle and moments of concern. That being said, I think we find a way to make it happen. I said earlier that the key that I think we need to find a way to 28 or 30, because I don't think the Giants can keep up. And I don't think that they can kind of, get into a shootout. I don't think that's what they want. They want a slow game where they let their defensive line take control. And I think we kind of fall victim to that to begin with. But I think Jayden, I have to look at Jayden Daniels, and I look at him as a force multiplier, and I have to think that guy can change things, right? He's got the ability to change things. So I think we end up winning. I think it's a little we want, and it's like 24-22. Something weird, you know what I mean? Like, and we kind of come out of this game with with a deep sigh of relief that we ended up winning and we didn't get what we wanted. The best case scenario, like I said, would be us putting up 30. I just wonder if we've got in that club in the bag week 1, and it's going to be tough. So 24-22 is what I'll go with. So as we wind this thing down, boys, is there anything else you guys wanted to touch on? Any other subjects that we wanted to react to? Tony, I saw you just throw your head back. What's up, brother?
Oh yeah, the only thing I was going to say is I think if the Giants have any, they played great in the preseason or whatever, I think also part of that is they kind of have to, because they've sucked, and their coach and GM were kind of on the hot seat going into the season, so they're trying to generate more juice with their team. So I think that adds to it. And then the preseason is also interesting or to extrapolate from it, because like Ron Rivera's last year here. We lost like one game in the preseason, but we still sucked. So it'll be interesting to see if there really is anything that carries over from the preseason. And then lastly, the main thing is that brings me confidence is we got 5 going into each game. Generally, or most games, I think 5 is going to be the best quarterback. So that always gives us a chance, even if we're not firing on all cylinders and in every facet. I think that's one thing that, he can't win every game, but he gives us a shot all the time because now we got one of those dudes.
Yeah, Derek, at least you mentioned coaching, and that's totally a valid thing. I know, Sip did too, because you were talking about Dan Quinn, and his teams traditionally start slow. I think the on-field leadership makes a bit of a difference this year, right? Jaden Daniels isn't a rookie. Listening to some of the stuff that happened in training camp, him kicking guys out of the huddle because they weren't on the same page with the rest of the team. Hey, go take a seat. Let somebody else take your reps because we don't have time for you to not have your head in this. Dude, that's the kind of leadership we haven't had on the offensive side of the football in years. And I'm a big believer in the concept of the sophomore slump. And I know it sounds biased because he's my quarterback, but I'm going to be shocked if Jaden Daniels comes out and has a sophomore slump of a year. Absolutely shocked, because the kid it just doesn't seem like that's even a possibility with his makeup. The way he approaches the game, the way he approaches life, just doesn't seem to have room for that. And then you got a guy on the other side of the ball like Bobby Wagner. I mean, who was the last great defensive leader before Wagner? Ray Lewis? I mean, he's in that same category, right? And I just don't see those two guys letting this team walk out on the field and feel like we've arrived because we went to the NFC Championship game.
Well, don't forget about Von Miller either.
Right. I mean, in fact, I dare say that those two guys have probably spent the week reminding everybody in both huddles about the bad taste the team left the field in Philadelphia with in January. I would be. I mean, if I were in one of those huddles, I'd be talking about it all day, every day, because the only way to wash that out of your mouth is to make it one game further. And it starts Sunday. And I think both of those guys know it, and I don't see them letting their individual units forget about it.
Yeah, I actually would even prefer it if they were playing the Eagles. My issue about their motivation is that they're playing the Giants, and it's a team they should beat, but I don't know if they have that natural edge. Oh my God, we're playing the New York Giants in game one. Like, because it's not as big of a challenge, that's part of it for me. But the other part of it, it's not so much the Giants played that well in preseason. They did. But like take for example, Patrick Mahomes. He's playing in game number 3 in the preseason, throwing 13 passes. You got Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals talking about their slow starts and saying, we got to play in the preseason, get some of the receivers. I love Jaden, but is he above Mahomes, above Burrow as far as he doesn't need the reps? He doesn't need these practice, games with throwing the ball to Terry and throwing the ball to Noah. And he's awesome. I think Jaden might end up being better than Mahomes. I mean, to me, he's that good. But I think, to me, Quinn took it to the extreme. I mean, Jay Gruden, didn't really take the preseason too seriously. Quinn, I think, took it way to the extreme from my point of view, as much as I think he's a great coach. And if he was playing another team that did something similar, I'd feel better, but it's like one extreme versus the other extreme. You got the Giants, who went bananas playing their starters, who also said the same thing. They want to get off to a hot start. They want to have their starters seasoned and ready. So you're actually juxtaposing one extreme of preparation versus another extreme of lack of preparation as far as reps go. And not that alone is what makes me pessimistic. but I think it's just in a close game, which I expect. I don't know. Brian Mitchell, for example, said that there's just nothing that beats the actual game reps, the physicality of it. Like, you have to feel it. And if you go into game one without having experienced that at all during the preseason, it's, to paraphrase what he said, he said something along the lines of it's kind of a shock to your body to adjust to it. The Giants don't have to deal with any of that. Washington has so many moving parts, that so many players that didn't play. Jaden didn't throw the ball once. They got to kind of have it all sort of, the whole symphony to happen in one fell swoop, in the season, without doing it in the preseason at all for a lot of these guys. I don't know. That worries me. If they took a different approach in the preseason, I wouldn't be as worried. Having said that, it may be, even if my fears are realized, it might be one of these lose the battle to win the war, that because you're not really pushing yourself in the preseason, later on in the season, it might help for them to have that surge at the end. So I'm not questioning it over the whole season, but as far as the first couple of games, yeah, I'm a bit worried. But we'll see. I hope I'm dead wrong.
Fair point, man.
Yeah, and I actually agree with you a lot, and that's my biggest concern with what we're looking at. I mentioned Terry McLaurin. He has not played a competitive snap. He did not play in the preseason. He did not play in the scrimmages. He did not play in the live action. And do I want to believe that he's in shape? 1,000%. I know he's in shape, but it's different. Everybody will tell you it is different on Sunday or on game day. And to your point, Sip, I agree with you a lot that I think that is the biggest. If there is an Achilles heel to this game, that's going to be it. It's going to be that we're not firing on all cylinders yet. I think if this is week 10, there's no reason the Giants should be in the game with us unless they can create what we used to do against the Eagles in a situation where you have a unit take over a game, like their defensive line. But that being said, I still have to say I do think the veteran leadership. Look, the other name we didn't talk about is Deebo Samuel, right? Deebo Samuel has been as close as you can get to a Super Bowl without a Super Bowl. That guy's not taking anything for granted, right? He took less money to come in it. And we mentioned Von Miller. Von Miller, being interviewed, said, "You don't just leave Josh Allen, right? That's not what you do. So I think there is enough vet leadership that guys are trying, that maybe it's not completely overcome, but I think there's a lot of that conversation, and I think that's going to be the mentality that we're still the underdogs, man. We're still the little brother in the division. Everybody still loves the Eagles. Despite what we did last year, it doesn't matter. You know why? Because our big brother beat us in the NFC Championship game, and not only beat us, they took us to, they handled us. It was 55-28 or something along those lines. Like, I'm sure that number's on the board, and that is what they're remembering.
Yeah.
So there's going to be opportunities when you have a rookie right tackle and when you have Coleman on the interior, as has been talked about. But I do think if this team showed something last year, it was a level of grit. It was inexplicably finding ways to win football games. Jaden Daniels, in his first year, looked like a rock star within a 2-minute drill. And I mean, so there's levels of preparation. And you said that Jaden Daniels might not have attempted a pass on a field, but he has been attempting, like, he's preparing, and mentally he's attempted these passes 1,000 times. So, and I also think part of the reason why Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury were okay with sitting as many people as they were, the game plan we see in the regular season was not on display in the preseason. Outside of 4 plays in the second preseason game when we went literally just, you know what, we're going to run it. We're going to create holes the size of Mack trucks, and we're going to do whatever the hell we want to do. And that is literally what happened. Debo ran off right on a jet sweep. I'm sure we'll see a lot of that kind of thing. Chris Rodriguez. I just free slipped from the last podcast. Rodriguez had a big run. Jaden Daniels runs in for a touchdown. I think there's going to be, that was the closest thing that we've seen to the offensive game plan in any game. So there was not an emphasis on getting reps, because the reps that were played were literally, I'm going to make you prove to me you be a part of this team, and it has nothing to do with what we're going to see in week 1 through 18. Yeah. So, fellas, as we wind this thing down, it's always a pleasure. We've shifted to our Monday routine now, so we'll be recording on Monday nights to post Monday night for viewership on Tuesdays. So if you're following along, you can catch us on Tuesday mornings or Monday nights if you want to stay up this late. And please give us a like and a subscribe. Hook us up with all of the follows. It is greatly appreciated. And as always, we'll end it with the call sign of that'll do, pigs. That'll do.